Welcome to Season 2, Episode 10 of the Oh So Spurs podcast, where today we have a special guest from North London. He is a Gooner, though. Hey, Nick, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Yeah, doing well, thanks. And thank you for coming on to help preview the game today.
Thanks for having me. Having me.
And from the
I'll
regulars...
keep it clean.
Yeah, we don't have any of a... We've got a ceasefire for the next 40 minutes, so yeah. We'll save that for when the recording stops. And we have Sai. How are you, mate?
Yeah, doing well. Good to see you all.
Good to see you too. We have Johnny. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Yes, trying to look like a professional person today.
Yeah, you look very smart, mate. For those watching on YouTube, yeah.
No ironing though, but.
And we have Deej. How are you?
Doing good.
Good to hear. And of course, we have Stu. How are you, mate?
All good. How are you doing all tonight?
I'm already starting to sweat about the North London derby a little bit, actually. I'm not sure if it's excitement or nerves. But I think that'd be a good place to start. We've already done our post Sheffield United pods, so you can find that on our YouTube or whatever you listen to page. This is more of a preview for the North London derby, and that's why we thought we'd bring Nick on. So, Nick, it'd be kind of interesting to start with you, I think. I'd love to understand a bit more about how you feel as Arsenal fans this season, because from a Spurs perspective, we're kind of hoping that you're not quite looking as strong as you were last season. And there's been some games where I thought, oh, maybe we've got a chance of keeping pace with them this year. But I'll pass it over to you to get your view on it.
Yeah, sure. I think obviously people look back at last season, and if you obviously maybe Spurs fans weren't following us in pre-season at the start of 22-23, but even then there were some really positive vibes coming out of the club. You know, when we just bought Zinchenko and Jesus and Saliba finally played for us as well, and things were really starting to look up. And I think it took a lot of people by surprise, because obviously we were nobody's tip to challenge, let alone potentially win the title last season. You know, a lot of Arsenal fans that I spoke to were also of the same opinion at the time, simply because, you know, you look at the experience of City, the fact that unlike in history, you know, you can keep on winning and so on, but City can go 15 games without blinking, just winning 15 on the spin, which you've never really seen in the past. And so I always knew that was a possibility, that they were going to do that. And, you know, I think the turning point for us at that point was losing, we lost Saliba somewhat stupidly in a Europa League game, which he should never have played in. And we never really recovered from that, because we then played Holding, who, with all due respect, was just never up to it. Never in 7 years was up to it. And consequently, you know, we sort of just lost our way. And I think it's that momentum thing. And it kind of carried on a little bit into this pre-season. But the one positive is, I think, bringing in Declan Rice, albeit for 105 million, has really added that sort of steel that maybe we didn't have last season. So that although we're not blowing teams away, we are looking a lot more comfortable. You know, even leading 1-0. I think the one big plus for coming into this season is the fact that our squad is that much deeper now that we can hopefully cope with pretty much any player. You know, maybe not Saka, you know, or Bryce, but pretty much any player getting injured, we can replace them.
Yeah, so that's a big difference as well as the depth this year, where you're going to need it with Champions League, I guess. But if we move on to I want to move on to bits like the vibe of what we're feeling as a result for the North London derby coming up, because it feels like there's a bit less momentum behind Arsenal this year than there was last year, although there's still obviously, I think, because the expectations will be higher as well of expecting a title challenge rather than it being like this overachievement that really brought a big buzz around. But guys, from your perspective, from a Spurs perspective, like, how are you feeling going into the game, Sai? Like, are you feeling confident, not confident? What are you expecting based on what Nick said?
Never confident in North London derby, but I think that there's a bit more confidence with the way that the team's playing right now compared to going in expecting us to sit back in that low block in the Conte, Mourinho, Nuno period, and allowing Arsenal to come onto us, and all the space that we gave you last year in the defeat at your place last year, where we just let you run the midfield and press us into our penalty box and hoping to hit you on the break, and we just couldn't get the ball off of you. I think it'll be a different story this time. I think the midfield battle will be that will be the ground where it's won. I'm looking forward to seeing Rice against Maddison, seeing how that pans out. Basuma against Odegaard, that will be another significant battle, I think. And I think that both teams play a high press, fairly high line. So I think it's going to be an end-to-end blockbuster, if I'm honest. I don't know whether it'll be a high-scoring game, but I think it'll be full of incident. I think it'll be full of pace. I think it'll be full of skill. I think it'll be a good game. And it's not often I would go into the derby recently in the last maybe 4 years saying that I'm sort of looking forward to it for the football. Obviously still nervous about just the rivalry because you never watch the 90 minutes and enjoy it until the end if you've won. So, but I think that's going to be, that midfield area is going to be really, really interesting. I think both teams have got pace up front to burn. If we play Johnson up on the right, that could be another string to our bow, or maybe he comes on a little bit later, as we were talking about and on the last pod. So I think it'll be a good game. Where it's going to go, like I said before, I think my heart says Tottenham win. I can't predict anything else, 2-1, but my head says it's probably going to be a draw.
Johnny, do you feel similar to Si, or do you feel differently? Here we go. It's normally a negative prediction, but let's go for it.
Time for positive Paul.
Get me the bread knife. I'll do my wrists now.
All right. I mean, I'm not going to completely let you down. Like, there's a bit more Nelly in me than there was on Sunday. I'll be honest with you. I was still caught up in the euphoria of the Sheffield United finale. I don't know. Like, I definitely, I think, both sides and Nick have mentioned a lot of important factors. I guess just even from the point of view, if you knew nothing about either team, you kind of look at what's going on in terms of their kind of fixtures at the moment. Arsenal have obviously got Champions League tomorrow night. I know it's at home, but it's still another fixture where we have the time on the training pitch that they won't have specifically for the derby. Then they've got another League Cup fixture in the middle of next week against Brentford. They've got a doubt with Martinelli, which could be pretty significant. I hope that continues to be the case and he's out because he's a super player. They've lost Partey obviously and that guy Timber, however you pronounce it, but they were pretty fortunate I think last season when it came to injuries. It's a funny one. Saka's an incredible player, but I still sort of think with Arsenal, I don't know why they didn't sign another striker. And Jesus seems to be their sort of number one striker. And to me, he's just, for a team that's really serious about a title challenge, I don't think he's your first choice striker personally. So I kind of think with the way that we've evolved so dramatically. I mean, I was at that game in January at the Lane, and our performance, it was in a horrific season. And I was at the game the previous May that Nick was talking about. Talk about 7 or 8 months making a difference. We kind of 8 months on from that shocking, zero fight, absolutely shambolic, disgraceful performance from Tottenham in January in the derby, to now actually having almost a different lineup completely, and also a team where we can sort of see that at the back we can deal with their threats. I think because we do have the pace now, and we've got a stable lineup. We've got a goalkeeper that's not going to push the ball into the net like Lloris did. With all due respect to Hugo, no, but he did. He did in that game, and so I do quite fancy that we'll. I do think I'd be really.
He's getting there,
really
guys.
gutted.
He's getting there.
Negative Nelly and positive Paul are fighting.
Yeah.
Let's fight together right now.
It's like in Star Wars, Anakin and Obi-Wan and the fire. It's no, okay. Well, listen, no, I'm Obi-Wan walked away with that. So positive Paul is probably gonna. I'm gonna say a draw or Tottenham win. I do think that we'll.
You got to choose one, Johnny.
We're gonna win. I'm gonna stick with. I do think there'll be a load of goals, and I do think that we're gonna enjoy it, and I think it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna go Tottenham 3-2 like I did the other day.
Oh, that is ambitious, but
Bold,
okay, that's
bold.
bold. Bold. He's gone in. No,
Whoa.
you can't.
Why not?
No more buts. You've committed.
All right.
Johnny's lumped it on the table, and he said 3-2 Spurs. Deej, what are you feeling for the game? I should have asked this at the start, but Deej, you can talk about it. I've seen a lot of people on social media saying we should drop Porro for Royale.
I was going to talk about that, yeah.
Okay, and any other changes to lineup? Because people are all suggesting Hoijberg to come in, and I'm interested to see your thoughts on these ideas.
Call me, maybe this is a holdover from Conte ball, but I kind of don't like messing too much with a good thing. I think, though, to be fair, we didn't really do all that much against Sheffield without substitution. So I don't know, maybe that is cause for changes. I think that if Martinelli is healthy, that would give me cause to want Emerson more than Porro. Not saying necessarily that I would need to have Porro in the lineup, or not need to have Emerson in the lineup, but Martinelli scares me, and Porro being the one who's more or less responsible for Martinelli scares me more, and Martinelli not being there gives me a little bit more confidence in having, like, trading off some of the defensive ability that Emerson provides for the extra attacking output that someone like Porro would give us down that wing. So overall, yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this game plays when, like you guys said earlier, we're not just sitting back and trying to play on the counter. Because if there's one thing that I know that Ange won't do, it's sit back and play on the counter. He took his 2-3-5 system with Celtic to Madrid and obviously got smacked, but he didn't change his system just because he thought that the opposition were a level above. I don't think, obviously from an outsider perspective, I'm not sure if I've been I think it's Arsenal's performances haven't necessarily been unconvincing, but they've been a different kind of convincing than last season. It's been more of the, like, mid-years Pep, where he wouldn't necessarily, except for like games against like Watford, where he wouldn't win games like 6-7-1, but he would just absolutely just grind you down and then score a goal, and and that's kind of been how it feels to like watch the Arsenal games from what I've seen. So I think that kind of style matched up against our like go type of play will be really, really interesting. And I agree with Sai. I think the game will be won in the midfield. I think now that we actually have 3 players there instead of the 2, we'll have a bit better of a chance of like competing there. Man, it's so hard. I think both of these teams, I think we've really improved, and I think that unfortunately Arsenal are still quite good. So
very magnanimous.
Quite good, yeah.
Yeah. I think that
Go on.
I feel it'll be.
Put it on the table, Deej. Ange said you can believe. He said get excited. Let your heart get broken. But have fun up until Sunday, and then break your heart.
I think it'll be I was going into this expecting to predict a 2-2, just a draw. I think that there will be plenty of goals in this game, just based on the way that we play. We definitely still have a mistake or two in our back line, but I think that our attacking threats are good enough to cause breakdowns in Arsenal's fairly good defense. So I think I'm going to stick with 2-2. I can't do any more. Because Johnny's taken my 3-2. Johnny's taken my 3-2. I'll go
honestly,
with 2-2.
The amount of thought going into these predictions is I've heard less thought going into the meaning of life. It's quite staggering. Stu, are you going to top it off, or is it simpler thought process for you?
Yes, I've been looking at the stats, and according to the strength of schedule, we've had the second easiest so far, and Arsenal's at the fourth easiest. So neither of us have really been tested. So I think this is going to be the first test for either side. So it really is going to see, which of us, or either of us, or none of us, are really going to be there, long term for the season. And this interesting thing is Chelsea's had the easiest, and they still struggled with points. So that
And we can share in that bliss, I guess, even with Nick. We can all. Chelsea's suffering is a very small mutual connection we have.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyway,
It is nice. It is nice.
so I'm really wondering if Poch is going to make it to our game against him, because if they're struggling against the easy schedule, who knows? But also looking at XG, so Arsenal have an XG of 1.84 to 0.84, and they've got the second best XG against in the league after City, and we have the second best XG in the league after Brighton at 2.32 to 1.34, so both +1. So I think both sides are pretty evenly matched from a statistics point of view. I'm scared. It's, how many times have we won there? Twice in recent memory. As much as I love Spurs and I love Ange and all the euphoria from last weekend, I've got to protect my heart. I just can't put it out there and say that we're going to go there and beat them. It's, as DJ said, as much as I hate to admit it, they're a really good side. They play good football. And I fear if they go up 1-0 early, it could be a long day for us. On the other hand, I do think mentally they're not that strong as shown by the end of last season. So if we get an early goal, it might go our way. So based on that, everything's always, a negative for them is a plus for us and vice versa. So I'm going to have to stick to my 2-2 draw. I can't do it.
What about you? Lots of 2-2 draws. What about you, Nick? What's your prediction? How do you think it's going to go?
Obviously, I think the fact, well, what you touched on as well is quite interesting, because most of the teams we've played, well, we've only played Everton, Forest, Fulham, Palace. They all play the low block, defensive, quite dour, and it's kind of frustrating to watch, because that if you miss a great chance or you have a goal disallowed by VAR, it's frustrating, because even against Everton the other day, Everton were terrible, and yet it still took us to like the 70th minute to score, simply because it was just a war of attrition. So in that respect, I'm quite excited to hear. I'll be honest, I've seen bits of Spurs so far. I saw quite a lot of the Man U game, and so I'm kind of excited by the fact, not necessarily excited about the game, because I too get nervous in spite of the fact that we've got certainly a good home record against you guys. Is the fact that you guys are not going to just sit back. So I'm kind of excited in that respect, that it could be a real shootout, as I think Si said. And I normally those games do suit us, because if a team comes and plays football, it gives us more chance. I think if you play we played Fulham 2 or 3 weeks ago, we let a goal in after 30 seconds. And the rest of the next 60 odd minutes was excruciating, because they time waste. They've had a couple of other good chances, but they just time waste and just sit back, and we couldn't break them down, and so on. Whereas I think even if Spurs scored against us, go one up, I don't think you're just going to sit back.
Oh no, we won't sit back.
We'll sit back and just hold on or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I think it could be a really good game. Obviously, with my Arsenal hat on, I would be reasonably confident we'll win. I'd be going for a 3-1 Arsenal victory, which I think has been the score the last couple of years, actually. Because I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, and I doubt you will either. And I just hope Arteta doesn't get all clever and start experimenting. He's trying to do the opposite of what everyone says, and says, "Look at me, I've come up with the idea of bringing on a goalkeeper in the 70th minute and things like that," which I think pretty much anyone in football would say, if it works, oh my god, wow, that's incredible. But it's not been done for a reason, because you just don't realistically change a goalkeeper during a game.
No. It feels a bit like he's doing some of these things for the sake of it to make an answer. But we do need to move on to the next topic as well. So, Si, I'm interested to hear from you. Who do you think is
going to do your prediction, and you're Mr.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go for... Yeah, I did get Sheffield United right. Yeah, it was a late 2-1 comeback, wasn't it? Just reminding everyone that. So that's 5 in a row.
You did leave before the 2 goals, though, right? So you had the courage of your convictions.
I was so confident in my predictions. I just swanned down the high road and I just went like, I did that, and then I just heard the crowd go afterwards. And then I had the other hand there, and then the crowd went again. I'm just going down the high road like that on my own.
Job done.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm like that in a pair of hot pants walking down the high road. Anyway, it's so yeah. My prediction for this game is it's going to be absolutely chaotic and emotional. Arteta's going to constantly go outside of his technical area to make it all about himself because he can't help himself.
But
He'll step outside there.
Of his box.
Yeah, but he does like the attention. I get the vibe he likes attention.
Arteta's going to sub himself on.
Yeah,
in the 85th minute.
He'll do something.
He got involved in training this week.
He's going to constantly be in Ange's face, but I don't think Ange is the type to react. I think it will just wind him up more that Ange is just kind of doing that kind of like expression where just what you're trying to do, like batting away a bit of a fly. But I think we will go 2-0 down at half time. I think they're just going to be, Arteta's tactic will be go out there and just swarm them. Like absolutely swarm them with a crazy, crazy amount of intensity. But the downside to that, even though they've got a bigger squad now, is they have played on Wednesday night. And I think this is going to be what gives us a chance to get back into the game is about 55 or 60 minutes. We're going to probably bring on the big guns. We've got a good squad now. I think we'll bring on Brennan Johnson, obviously. And I think we'll make the other subs that we made against Sheffield United as well. And I think you'll suddenly have this swarm of Tottenham players pushing Arsenal back in the same way they pushed us in the first half. So it'll be a case of, in the first 30 minutes, how many goals can Tottenham limit Arsenal to? And I think in the last 30 minutes, how many goals can Arsenal limit Tottenham to? And whoever wins that battle will win the game. Now, my gut says that I always back the home team on a North London derby. Like, I think 8 times out of 10, there's probably statistics behind it, the home team's going to win. But I think people said about the emotions as well of Arsenal. I just think there could be a red card in this game, and it's got that written all over it, just spilling over and getting silly. And I just back Ange that little bit more to have a team that's like, we're not getting involved with all that. And an Arsenal player to get a red card and Spurs to come back and get a 2-2 draw. So I'm going to go for another 2-2 draw, guys. That's my prediction there. But Sai, which Spurs player are you most looking forward to, and which Arsenal player are you most concerned about in the derby?
I think I mentioned the 2 in the midfield, and if I'm going to go with one of them, I think I'm most looking forward to Basuma. I think he's just got that ability at the moment to hold on to the ball, break the lines, and make space for Maddison. And I think this could be a game where Maddison shines well, but I think Basuma has been immense for us. Who am I worried about? If Martinelli plays, I'm worried about Martinelli down that right-hand side. Depending to DG's point, whether you have Emerson or Porro down there. I think Martinelli is a class act, and he finishes very, very well. He's got pace to burn. So if he's playing, I'm worried about him. And from our side, I'm really looking to see if Basuma can get hold of the ball and have some influence in that midfield, because I think he's a bit special. And the fact that we got him for 25 million and Caicedo went for 140, I think we've done some decent business there.
Yeah. Johnny, do you agree, or do you have any changes to make on that?
No, I think Basuma's probably a good show, but I'm going to name somebody else then as a result. And I do think it's me being romantic, which is what I always am, and I think
you devil, you.
I know, shucks.
lucky Mrs. Adair.
I know. Tell me. I say that to myself every day. I'm sure she does.
Do you walk in and just say you're a lucky lady?
Yeah,
Christmas and birthday, sweetheart. Christmas and birthday again.
Yeah, exactly. Every morning.
I'm gonna like, yeah. Probably I'm gonna. This is romantic. This is probably not gonna happen. But I really hope that Richie can double down after what he did the other day. And it was just after the week he had. That was in many ways the best thing about that win was that he got the goal, he got the assist. I'm sure he'll probably come off the bench, but if you can come off the bench and wreak the kind of havoc he did the other day, like he really was like a hornet in the whatever kind of thing the Hornets terrorized. He was absolutely buzzing everywhere. So I hope that Richie is our hero. And yeah, it's like the old, I think the North London Derby's gone by. The South American temperament and the gamesmanship. Obviously, Lamela is probably one that comes immediately to mind. But yeah, I hope that Coody can keep us cool. But that's another.
Yeah,
question.
that could be the red, couldn't it?
That could be the red as well.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
did you see there? I was saying Cootie could revert to type by getting 2 or 3 red cards in one game somehow, and that seemed to happen last week. Coincidentally, that player, did you see it? He just did this giant lunge and ankle breaker and just wiped 2 players out next to each other. So I'm just fearful that Cootie does that in the first minute of the game just to make sure he gets back to the stats, back to normal. But anyway,
he did break up Emerson trying to get in Tom Davies' face at the end, which was
really
probably one of the. So that gives me hope. That gives me hope that maybe he won't be the red. I do think that there's a red somewhere in this game, though. I just don't know where.
I always think
Hopefully it's over
Zinchenko's
there.
got it in him, even though he's a nice guy. I always feel if he's an Arsenal player, just to kind of go a bit emotional in the moment and just forget where he is and do something crazy, he seems like the most likely to me. I don't see Nick nodding or shaking his head.
Well, I actually think I'd actually go a step further and say it could be absolutely filthy and have maybe 2 or 3 red cards. I've been to a few North London derbies where I think there's a good chance of 1 from each side or 2 from one side and 1 from another, anything like that. But when you get 2 teams clashing who are doing well near the top of the table, and obviously the emotion of the North London derby, I think there's a good chance, dare I say it, that you could easily see a couple go off from there.
I think you're right. It's good. Yeah, I think you're right. Go on, Dick. And Deej, do you have any thoughts on that? And also who's your danger man from each side?
I was just gonna say, I know that the referee is the same one from the Brentford game, our Brentford game. So there's going to be a VAR cock-up somewhere in this game as well. That is the other thing that's going to happen.
It's his first North London derby as well.
Yeah, that worries me. I think that this game could get out of control, which does lend some credence to the idea of maybe multiple reds. If the game is refereed anywhere similar to our game at the weekend against Sheffield, I don't think that people can.
Oh. I forgot you have to write backwards on it. That's very clever. Sorry, Deej, totally screwed up your train of thought.
It's okay.
My mantle watches Saka, and that's what it looks like backwards.
Got you.
That was actually the person I was going to pick, because I was going to my men to watch on isn't necessarily, it's more of like a matchup. I think that the matchup between Saka and Destiny is going to be really really interesting to watch. Because I think Destiny has looked fantastic, but we've had like has been mentioned, we've had a weaker schedule. To be fair, it's not our fault that United are shit, but outside of that, we've had a pretty weak schedule, and I think it'll be interesting to see him up against one of the best wingers in the Prem, in Saka. I think Saka could definitely do a lot of damage. I swear he has a goal or an assist a game for you guys, and I'm hoping that Destiny continues his sort of, I don't want to say meteoric rise, because he kind of just started at the top of his game, but I hope that he continues the form that he's in, and I think that's going to be the most interesting matchup to watch. That isn't like a midfield versus midfield thing, which I think is kind of hard to narrow down to like a one player versus one player.
Yeah, interesting. All right, and Stu, what about you? Who's your?
I was going to say Saka as well, but I'll go for someone else then. Zinchenko. So I think I know he gets a lot of memes and stuff about his crying and the rest of it, but I actually watched him when he was playing on loan at PSV years ago, before he became a household name, and I think he's a really really good left back, and I think Porro not being great defensively could be an area for Arsenal to exploit, and that kind of worries me a little bit. And on our side, I agree completely with Sai. Bissouma, I think, is going to be brilliant. Special shout out, obviously, to the Italians, Vic and Udoji. But actually, what I'm hoping that our threat is going to be the announcement on the world stage for sports stage, Spurs stage, Johnson coming on as a sub and getting an equalizer, the last minute, something like that. Because I think he could be like the new Delhi. He did a lot of things. I saw, a lot of videos on Twitter, a lot of similarities with the way, he kind of runs and his carefree way of him versus Delhi at the same age. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on Brennan Johnson there. I think he's going to be our danger man. And I'm thinking if we do come back to win, to draw that game, it's going to be because of a late goal or two from him. Like, if you don't really follow him, Nick, and his career so far, he's the second fastest player in the Premier League behind Kyle Walker. Ange just wanted him for years, and he's finally got him. And he came on for just half an hour versus Sheffield United, but he scored. It was just ruled out for offside, but he looked
I saw that.
really, really good. And I just think when the legs start to go over after that European match, and you've got Zinchenko high up the pitch as an attacking wing back, you want to be going to Johnson, right? Get at Johnson and get him to run past Zinchenko, because he's quick, Zinchenko, but he's going to have to play 180 minutes in quite quick succession. Just with this new extra time rule now, which adds a lot more burden on players as well. I just think it might be an interesting advantage. But and from Arsenal's side, I hope Martinelli's not fit, because for me, he's your danger man, because our right wing back position is, although Porro is a very good attacking player and he's improved a lot defensively, I'd have much more faith in a doggy keeping Saka relatively quiet than I would Porro keeping Martinelli quiet. And I think that's why people might be saying, I'll play Emerson Royal just for this game. But Nick, is your danger man? We've only got about a minute left, so I have to ask you to be quick. But who's your danger man for Arsenal?
Well, I don't know if he's a danger man, but again, I know he's, it's a price tag, but I think Rice has really brought a lot of calm to the team. I know people say he doesn't score a lot, he doesn't assist a lot, but he just brings a lot of calm and composure. And it's, he does those, they say there's people that you don't notice who do the simple things really well. It's not spectacular like, like a Maddison, for example, with a great pass, or an Odegaard or anything like that. And so I think, I think Rice has really made a difference in terms of just having that extra stability, that we don't look like we're going to blow it in the last 10 minutes. Like even against Everton, you think, we're going to let a goal in near the end because we're not too up, and yet Everton's never sniff. And that's, I think, because of that defensive wall that we've got behind, just placed in front of the defence, which helps immensely. So yeah, I'd go for it.
Yeah. Well, I hope he stubs his toe on Wednesday and is out for a week. I wouldn't wish injury on any player, but I think I can wish a stub toe on someone, can't I? So, so I think, and just so we know as well, that the referee is indeed Rob Jones, who has refereed 5 North London derbies already.
Is he?
Is that right? Is that sort of saying here? I'm just reading that.
No, I guess I was missing that.
I don't know.
The referee's only taken charge of 1 of 4. Oh, no, sorry. 1 of the 4 Arsenal games and 3 Spurs games. So he's taken charge of 4 games that have included Tottenham or Arsenal, not North London derbies, to be clear. Yes, it's first North London derby. And I'd like to finish this bit off with appreciation for the North London derby, because I think because the media is loaded with Liverpool pundits and Man United pundits, the Merseyside derby, and what it used to be when the Sunderland in the Premier League, the Tyneside derby used to be quite good, but the Merseyside derby and the Manchester derby gets all the plaudits for being like the big one. And I think our derby dumps on them both. You consistently get big scoring games in the North London derby. The Merseyside derby tends to seem to be 0-0s. The fans, I don't think other fans appreciate the hatred Spurs and Arsenal have for each other as well. Like, you got to understand, like, Chelsea think we hate them and they hate us. Imagine having to hate someone 50% more than that. That's what we have to deal with, having a rival in Arsenal. So, I just think we have the best derby in the league. And
well, I think on that point, I would say, my brother-in-law's an ardent Spurs fan, and a huge number of my friends are Spurs fans. In fact, more than I realised when you got to the Champions League final, it was like I was going to have to leave the country if we'd won that. for some reason, I don't know why, but the Spurs fans still hark back to 1913 when we came over from Woolwich.
Yep.
You know, and
Yep.
it's like, hang on, that was
and
100
we always will.
100 and something years ago.
We always will.
How anyone
Do it when it's 300 years ago.
You can't change your
Right.
history, mate.
Let's get in. No, gloves off. We're getting into it now. That
still
North
a-
London Hours song needs to stop, and we're not getting into it. We don't have time. We've got to wrap
There
up
is
now.
still a station
We've got to
called
wrap up.
Woolwich Arsenal.
I know
South
there is. I
River.
know. I've been there.
All right. We'll stop the recording and we'll get the gloves off and we'll sort that one out after this. See you on the high roads. 30 minutes before kick-off, Nick. But thank you very much for joining us, Nick.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
let's hope it's we don't enjoy North London derbies when they're being played. They're too nerve-wracking. But let's hope it's an entertaining game anyway. It'll take a few years off our life expectancy, I'm sure. But we always finish with an up the Spurs. I'm sorry, Nick, but we do finish with up the Spurs.
Up the Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.